The most dangerous team in the World Cup is not always the team with the biggest stars. Sometimes it is the team nobody respects. The team people laugh at before kickoff. The team fans call easy points. But in World Cup 2026, that kind of team could become a nightmare. Because this tournament is bigger, longer, and more emotional than ever. And one small mistake against a so-called small team could destroy a giant's dream. For years, World Cups have been built around the same story. Big nations arrive with famous players, expensive squads, and millions of fans expecting victory. Brazil, Argentina, France, England, Germany, Spain, Portugal, these names carry history. They carry trophies. They carry pressure. But football does not care about reputation once the whistle blows. And that is exactly why smaller teams are more dangerous in World Cup 2026. This tournament is not just another World Cup. It is the first edition with 48 teams, more countries, more dreams, more fans watching with national pride in their chest, more players who may never get this chance again. And when a team enters the World Cup with nothing to lose, they can become the most uncomfortable opponent on the pitch. Because the big teams are not just playing football. They are carrying fear, fear of humiliation, fear of headlines, fear of becoming the giant that fell, fear of letting down an entire country. But the underdog walks into the stadium with a different kind of energy. They are not thinking about protecting a legacy. They are thinking about creating one. And this is where the match becomes dangerous. In World Cup 2026, smaller teams will not only arrive to participate, many will arrive believing they can survive the group, steal a result, and maybe even shock the world. With more teams advancing into the knockout rounds, every point becomes valuable. A draw against a favorite is no longer just a proud moment. It could become the result that changes the entire group. That is the hidden danger most fans miss. A big team may think, we should win this, but a smaller team may think, if we suffer for 90 minutes and take 1 point, our dream stays alive. And those two mindsets create a trap. The favorite wants control. The underdog wants chaos. The favorite wants space. The underdog closes every gap. The favorite wants an early goal. The underdog wants every minute without conceding to make the stadium more nervous. And the longer the score stays level, the heavier the pressure becomes. You can feel it in the body language. The star player starts forcing shots. The crowd gets tense. The coach keeps looking at the clock. The underdog players begin to believe. One block becomes a celebration. One counterattack becomes a warning. One corner becomes a national moment. And suddenly, the match is no longer about quality. It is about nerves. What most fans missed was something deeper. Smaller teams do not need to dominate a World Cup match to destroy a favorite. They only need one perfect moment. One mistake from a defender, one free kick, one goalkeeper error, one counterattack, one shot that takes a deflection, one moment where the big team switches off. That is all it takes. And in the World Cup, one moment can become history forever. This is why star players will feel even more pressure in 2026. When a giant faces a smaller nation, fans expect the superstar to solve everything. If the match is difficult, people do not blame the system first. They look at the famous names. Why is he not scoring? Why is he not creating? Why is he quiet? Why can't they beat this team? That pressure can break rhythm. A player who usually plays with freedom starts playing with fear. A team that usually builds calmly starts rushing every attack. And the underdog can smell that fear. That is when belief becomes dangerous, because small teams are often built around emotion. They know every tackle matters, every sprint matters, every save matters. They know people back home are watching in cafes, homes, streets, and fan zones, hoping for one night they will never forget. For the big teams, a group stage win may feel like business. For a smaller nation, the same match could feel like the biggest night in their football history. That emotional difference matters, and World Cup history has already taught us this lesson again and again. The tournament always gives us moments where football logic collapses. A favorite looks safe. An underdog looks outmatched. Then the game begins and everything changes. But in 2026, the danger may be even stronger because the tournament is wider. More countries means more styles, more unknown players, more difficult travel, more emotional pressure, more matches where the favorite does not fully understand what kind of opponent is waiting, and that is where overconfidence can become fatal. A giant may look at the badge, the ranking, the names, and think the game is already won. But the smaller team may have spent months preparing for that one match. They may know they cannot match the favorite player for player, so they turn the game into a fight of patience, discipline, and emotion. They slow the rhythm, they protect the box, they force crosses, they waste no energy on beauty, they wait for frustration. And when the favorite pushes too many players forward, the underdog attacks the empty space. Simple football, brutal football, dangerous football. This is why the first goal will be so important in many of these matches. If the favorite scores early, the game may open. But if the underdog scores first, everything changes. The favorite suddenly has to chase. The crowd becomes restless. Every missed chance feels bigger. Every minute feels shorter. And the underdog starts defending something bigger than a lead. They defend pride. They defend belief. They defend the dream of millions. And when a team defends a dream, they can run harder than logic says they should. But the real problem is not just the score. The real problem is what an upset does to the group. A favorite losing or drawing one match can change everything. Suddenly the next game becomes must win. Suddenly rotation becomes risky. Suddenly star players cannot rest. Suddenly the coach is questioned. Suddenly the entire nation starts asking, what if we go home early? That fear can follow a team into the next match. And that is how one small team can damage a giant, even if they do not eliminate them immediately. They can plant doubt, and doubt is one of the most dangerous things in a World Cup. Because once doubt enters a dressing room, every pass feels heavier, every mistake feels louder, every opponent looks stronger. The team that arrived with confidence starts playing like it is trying to survive. Meanwhile, the underdog becomes a story. The world starts watching. Neutral fans join them. Their players become heroes overnight. Their next match suddenly feels bigger, and that belief can grow faster than anyone expects. That is the magic and the danger of World Cup football. A small team does not need a perfect squad. It needs a clear plan, brave players, and one moment where the favorite panics. That is why World Cup 2026 could be full of uncomfortable matches for the big nations. Not because the giants are weak, but because the gap between fear and belief can be smaller than people think. The favorite has more quality. The underdog may have more freedom. The favorite has more experience. The underdog may have more hunger. The favorite is expected to win. The underdog is waiting to embarrass them, and sometimes in a World Cup that difference is enough. So when you see a big nation drawn against a smaller team, do not look away. Do not assume the result is already written. Watch the first 20 minutes. Watch the body language. Watch how the favorite reacts when the underdog refuses to collapse, because that is when the real story begins. World Cup 2026 will not only be about the superstars, the trophies, and the famous shirts. It will also be about the countries fighting for respect, the teams that arrive with no fear, the players who know one great night can change their lives forever. And maybe the most dangerous team in the tournament will not be the one everyone fears before kickoff. Maybe it will be the one nobody took seriously until it was too late. If you want more World Cup stories like this, subscribe and watch the next breakdown.